Octavia Spencer was great, the sets were great, the hairstyles were great. It just really wasn't her story. I was looking for hidden figures, and I feel like I got Real Housewives of Atlanta. So, but Octavia was great. But Amelia Walker was nothing like the character who's in the movie. So if you saw the movie, just like, please try to erase that from your mind and read this book, because she was an amazing person. I'll talk about this more with Tamara Winfrey Harris when we go downstairs to the theater. But Amelia Walker was called the Joy Goddess of Harlem's 1920s by Langston Hughes, and he really gave her that title because she used her poems and her wealth and her charismatic personality to bring people together. All of the writers and artists and musicians and actors of that period were entertained in her poems, and she had traveled internationally. She went to Paris, London, Monte Carlo, Nice, Alexandria, Cairo, Addis Ababa, where she met the Empress, the Holy Land. So she had traveled internationally. She met all of these people, and she was kind of dealing in America in the Jim Crow era. But when she went overseas, she saw an entirely different world. So that when she came back, and people would visit from Africa or Europe, and they would come to her party, she was bringing people together who ordinarily would not have been in this system. And I will say, in honor of the Joy Goddess of Harlem, who helped create the atmosphere in Harlem, whose dark tower was the cultural salon where everybody wanted to go. So here's to Amelia Walker, and here's to all of you, and thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Oh my goodness! Can we just hold this book up?
We'll take a picture. Okay.
Kessler! I'm so excited to meet you.
She is too. Talk, Kessler.
You knew I would be excited to meet you. Kessler has she's played Madam Walker. She wrote a report. She won first prize, I'm sure, if there was a prize.
Yeah, she had fun. Right, Kay? Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm supposed to be downstairs. But we got to finish this. All right, Miss Kessler. Here you go. And this one is to you too?
Yeah.
I have the whole library.
So we already have some of the books, but they're not signed, so we had to get them again. So they'll be signed to you.
You look 69 years old now. Books like that. Good.
My little handwriting is getting a little messy right now.
And this one's to me.
Mom,
the new book.
You're letting Mom have a book?
Yeah, the new book. I can get the new book. Yeah. Thanks.
You can read it.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, everyone. We have to get started for the book chat that's going to happen in the theater. And so we want to make sure that everyone has a book signed. And so what we're going to do is give you a ticket that has a number on it. So immediately following the book.
Joy Goddess without her mother, Madam C.J. Walker, who built a business that employed thousands of women, that made her a millionaire, made her a philanthropist and a political activist. She made hair care products. This was her, Madam Walker's Wonderful Hair Grower was her main selling product. Some people still think Madam Walker invented the hot comb. She did not invent the hot comb. What she did do was to develop a system of beauty culture where she encouraged women to wash their hair more often, to use an ointment that was like Vaseline but contained sulfur, that healed scalp infections at a time when most Americans did not have indoor plumbing or electricity. So hygiene, needless to say, was very different. Women had such bad scalp infections that they were going bald, and this wonderful hair grower and vegetable shampoo solved that problem. She was born on the same plantation in Delta, Louisiana, where her parents and older siblings had been enslaved, first child in her family born free. But by the time she died in 1919, she was a millionaire. And you can see this progression from that picture of the before using Madam Walker's wonderful hair grower, and now this is about 1911, and she and her daughter Lelia are in front of their house in Indianapolis with their chauffeur. So she made a big trajectory between the age of 38, when she started her company, until this time in 1914. Her daughter, the company eventually was headquartered here in Indianapolis at 640 Northwest Street. That building is no longer there. This building was her vision for what she wanted to replace that building. And at that point, her daughter, Alelia, was managing the Pittsburgh office. She persuaded her mother that they needed to have a presence in Harlem. So in 1913, they bought property on 136th Street. And I think it was her daughter's vision to be in Harlem as it was becoming the Black cultural and political mecca that in many ways is the reason that they're more remembered than some of their contemporaries. This is the house in New York. She bought first one townhouse, then a second townhouse, then had architect Bert Mertandy, the first licensed Black architect in New York, designed this beautiful double townhouse. The first floor was the beauty salon, downstairs was the beauty school called Lelia College, and then upstairs their living quarters. This is the beauty salon, as lovely as anything, as they would say, on the east side of New York. This is the beauty school downstairs. Then Madam Walker's health was deteriorating. She was still in Indianapolis with F.B. Ransom, Judy's grandfather, managing the company, the day-to-day business in the company. And she decided she wanted to be in a city where she could be much more involved in the political activity of the NAACP and the anti-lynching movement. So she moved her personal residence to New York in 1916. But that beautiful townhouse, as she said essentially in a letter, was not big enough for two women. And so she had her architect design this house, Villa Lawaro, which is still standing, and like this building, like the Madam Walker Legacy Center, is another National Historic Landmark. This is the music room. Both women loved music, even when they were poor and living in St. Louis. Sarah Bree loved the washerwoman, had a good enough voice to be in the choir at St. Paul AME Church. And it was the women of the church who began to give her a vision of herself as something other than an illiterate washerwoman. They were surrounded by music. Her brothers were barbers in St. Louis, and the barber shops were where a lot of the musicians hung out. For a while, Sarah Breedlove and her daughter Lelia lived across the alley from Tom Turpin's Rosebud Cafe on Market Street, and that was where Scott Joplin played. So they were exposed to music. They developed an early love of music, including opera. In fact, Villa Lawaro was named by Enrico Caruso, the Italian operatic tenor, because they loved opera. They invited him to the house when it was being built, and it inspired him. He said it reminded him of homes in his native Italy. And he took the letters from Lelia Walker and then Robinson, who was her first husband, to come up with Lawaro. I like showing this just because they're both in fur coats. Then Madam Walker died in 1919. Alelia became president of the company, and she's here. There, right there. I think my little pointer is shaky. And this is Mr. Ransom, F.B. Ransom, Robert Brokenburr, who was the first Black state senator, Violet Reynolds, whose granddaughter is here today, Teresa Reynolds, and other people working with the company. This is Villa Lawaro. In 1924, there was a convention of Walker agents. And then this is my grandmother, May. We'll talk a little bit about May. May was adopted by Alelia Walker, and there's a much longer story. I think Tammy and I will talk about this, but you can see May has very long braids. Madam Walker's main product was Madam Walker's wonderful hair grower. And Sarah Breedlove had met May's uncle in St. Louis at St. Paul AME Church. And when she moved to Indianapolis, May's grandmother was living across the alley from her. She became very friendly with the family, including May's recently widowed biological mother, who was the third generation of women in her family to be widowed at 30 with 8 children. And May started running errands for people in the beauty salon, developed a relationship with Madam Walker, traveled with her as a model, and then eventually was adopted by Alelia. This is May's wedding in 1923. If you look closely, May is not happy. There's a whole story that you can read about in the book. Here she is with the groomsmen, who are kind of a who's who of young black men. There's an attorney, there's the son of a former congressman, there's the son of a famous novelist. They're gorgeous, but the groom is kind of dour. Alelia Walker was very much a part of the Harlem Renaissance. She converted a floor of the Dark Tower, her townhouse on 136th Street, into the Dark Tower, which became an iconic cultural space. This is the original invitation, and the menu, which includes Alelia Walker iced tea. This was during Prohibition, so I don't know what was in the iced tea. This Alelia Walker having fun with friends, and then the Walker Building, which was opened in December 1927. Mr. Ransom, Walker Company staff. This is the coffee pot. I think I didn't have these in my other cities, but I wanted to show you what this building looked like in the 1920s. This was the ballroom then with the stage. The drugstore, which my grandfather managed for a while. I could go on Sundays and I could have 2 ice creams. Alelia Walker at Villa, and then she died in August of 1931, and people were lined up for 2 days.
Young writers that want to share their family story.
Oh, that's insane. I love that. So what advice do I have for young writers who want to share their family story? So I realized I was a writer when I was 8 years old. I wrote a story. Are you 8? Oh, perfect. Perfect. So one of my mother's friends, Minnie Norris, read my story and thought it was good and sent it to a children's magazine. So I thought I was a writer. Yes, so that makes a huge difference. And then other people encouraged me. I don't know if Bruce and Marcia Gashaw are still here. But anyway, but Bruce's father was my journalism teacher in 7th grade. And that's when I became a journalist. I was really lucky that there were people who encouraged me to write. So I think that if you want to write, especially if you want to write about your family, I see, this is your mom right here. Your mom has her phone. I don't know if you have your own phone yet. You know, I'm not trying to start anything. I'm not trying to start, but you can use your mom's phone. And so here's the difference for you and for me. Now you have the phone, and so every time you see a grandparent or an aunt or a great aunt, take that phone out and ask them 3 or 4 questions. And then download that and save it. And after 3 or 4 visits, you'll have the beginning of a story. So you already are able to tell the story. You already know you're a writer. All right. Thank you. You're welcome.
As you know, it's an honor to work with Walker and continue to uplift the legacy. As a writer, I am curious from both of you to know more about your writing process. So, you know, there are writers who are like, hey, I gotta get up every single day, 6 a.m. and start writing it. So can you talk through your process from ideation to completion of the actual book in hand?
You go first.
I was gonna say, your process probably has more structure than mine. I find I create structure and buckle down when I finally have a deadline, when I finally have a book contract. And then it is, you know what helped me get through my latest book is scheduling time and having an accountability partner and getting up at 6 a.m. 3 days a week and just writing. We would meet on Zoom for an hour before work and I would just knock it out. And as someone who has always written nonfiction books, the process of writing a book proposal to me is actually annoying, but helpful because you have gone through all the structuring and all of those things. So when it comes time to actually write the book, you know, you already have something there.
So, you know, whatever people say, oh, I get up early or I only write at this time, I have all of the things. And so it's a mess. And so you're still working full-time with a really important job. I left ABC in 2006 thinking I was going to finish it, but then I filled it up with being on some nonprofit boards and having some leadership roles and doing other things. And I ended up I went away to a couple of writers' retreats. But I, get up early in the morning, I sit at the computer all day, I neglect my friends, and then finally, that's why I'm not writing another book. But finally, I finished it. But it really is, I have a cartoon that's on one of my cabinets in my office, and it's got somebody with a gun holding the gun to the head, and it says, "Write the darn thing."
I had lunch once with Tananarive Dew, and she said, because yes, if you want to be a writer, all you have to do is write, but that's harder than it sounds. But she said, set yourself a goal of writing 1 word a day, because if you sit down at the computer, you're not just going to write 1 word. You're going to write much more than that. But if you do only write 1 word, when? Right? All you got to do is have forward-moving process.
But I will say something. So the editing process. So I had worked on this book for a really long time, And when I finally, thought what I had was a finished manuscript, and I sent it to the editor, overdue. I don't know that deadline. It apparently did not really make it mean something to me. But when I finally sent it, and my editor slogged through what was probably almost twice as long as the final book. But she gave me really gentle, wise advice. And she said, think about the reader's experience. There were a lot of things that people I wanted to talk about, stories I wanted to tell, but they weren't propelling the storyline forward. And so I had to leave them out. But it took me, another 6 months at least to edit it down and to get rid of the things and to make it sing and to get the rhythm right. But that editing process was, it was gruesome. It was. But now I'm so happy it's done.
Was the person, young man who died recently. He came to me when I was at Lillian Down with the idea of restoring the Walker Building. And the history of that is so important, not just so wonderful for you to be back, for this building to be here, and I'm proud to have played a part in rebuilding it. So I also want to note the fact that you look around at this. This was an African-American contractor that did this, African-American architect, Bob LaRue. Jimmy Beard was a contractor. This was the first time in Indianapolis history that black contractors were working near downtown in Indianapolis when we did this building. So it built a lot of momentum for black contractors. We built it based on the fact that it was built by a black woman. There's not another building like this in the world. And so proud to have done this, and so proud to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So Charles was at the Lilly Endowment and really is a visionary who really was one of the key people who made this happen. So, give him his flowers.
Can I add to that and add to what Christian said earlier? But a lot of not-for-profits are very vulnerable right now. Yes. And if you love the Walker and you love this space and you love programming like this, I hope you are supporting the Walker, because when we lose gems like this in our community and they're gone, we are all poorer for it. So if you enjoy this, please make sure you're supporting the Walker.
Yeah, and thank you, Christian. I don't think I said my thank yous earlier, but okay, last question.
Yeah, I'm so up on what you just said. I was wondering, with the state of affairs that we are in politically, do you think it's possible that we may need to make something like an Underground Railroad 2.0? In the sense of trying to protect our art, our culture, for different communities and allies to coalesce and just protect ourselves all throughout the nation. I'm just a little worried.
Well, you should be worried, but that is what Tammy just said, why it's so important to support this place, because so many, the Indiana Humanities, which has been so generous to so many arts organizations in the state, their funding was cut. They've gotten a matching grant from Mellon, as have many other state humanities councils, but they're not going to be able to provide the same service. So some of this has to come from our
pockets. And, you know, traditionally, my good friend Tyrone McKinley Freeman, who isn't here because he and his wife are celebrating their anniversary on Lake Michigan, but who wrote the amazing book about Madam Walker's philanthropy, Madam Walker's Gospel of Giving, has talked about the tradition, the history of philanthropy in the Black community. And we have always given, but we sometimes think that somebody else will take care of it. We have to take care of this place. We have to take care of these institutions so that they will be here 100 years from now. This building has been here almost 100 years. We want it to be here for another 100 years plus. Okay. Thank you all very much.
We had a great time at
the Walker
Legacy Center.
Hit that subscribe button, that like button, that notification button right here to get all notifications for our new videos. Bye, guys.
We're walking back to the car. We had a great time with Aaliyah Bundles. An afternoon with her and her talking about her new book. And we are excited to read it. We will try to read it together this summer, right, Kay?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Bye, guys.
As she said, you want to go stand by the sign?
Yes, let's go do that. I'll do that next. But guys, it was so cold in the theater.
It was so cold. Yep,
yes.
That air worked, which is amazing.
But it couldn't have been that cold. It could have had a little heat to it. But this is what
You want to stand by her sign?
They should have had this. We should buy this sign and then Walker sign that nobody's put.
Okay. You want to take a picture?
Yeah.
Okay, go over there. All right, look this way. Take a picture. Okay. And I think this one is...
No, it's not blocked off.
Okay. She's going to walk by this one too.
Oh, maybe the R. No, yeah, you can still see the R.
Okay.
Wait, can we take a picture with each letter, but first we do the whole thing and then each letter?
No. Hold on, let me get it off. Say smile. Oh.